webinar is Learn How to Win Deals and Influence Brokers. So essentially we're talking about how to get deals. And we had a person comment in the chat already, which was they're in Phoenix, competitive market. How do you get people to take you seriously? There's so many people out there in multifamily. It seems like everyone and their dog wants to buy multifamily assets right now. So how do we stand out? How do we get people to take us seriously? How do we win deals and influence brokers? So there's two key steps in finding a deal. Number one is to really concretely define your criteria. And number two is, of course, to reach out to brokers. So we're going to be talking a lot about defining your criteria, because if people don't know what you're looking for, then they can't help you out. You have to be extremely specific about what it is that you are looking for. And then from there, you can start to actually get people to take you seriously, because number one, they know you're a legit investor if you know exactly what it is that you want. And also, when your criteria shows up to them, they'll think of you first because you're specific. And we'll get into just how specific you're going to get here. And then the second section will be, how do you actually reach out to these brokers? And a subset of that is, where would you find them in order to reach out to them? And yeah, we'll really dive into that as well. So how do you define your criteria? Number one is going to be the year built. So there's a specific year range that we're looking for B and C class multifamily. That's what I invest in. That's my criteria. But then we're also looking for a unit amount. So how many units are we looking for? The purchase price budget. So obviously, what can we afford? The cap rate range. This is going to tell the broker, number one, that we know the cap rate in the market. And then also it's going to show, it's going to set our range of what we are willing to pay for and what we're not willing to pay for. But of course, if you're a new investor, a lot of people will set their cap rate range at like, oh, I only buy 10 cap deals. It's like, well, good luck finding those, man. There is really no multifamily 10 cap deals, especially in competitive markets. Maybe if you were to go into a very rural area, but to say that that's kind of what your cap rate range is, it just shows you don't know the market and the broker won't take you seriously. So that may be one of the mistakes you're making as a new investor, would be setting your cap rate range at like, oh, I only look for 10 cap deals. It's like, well, good luck. For me, Austin right now, we're at somewhere between a 5% cap rate and a 7% cap rate. So if I was to say 10%, oh, I'm looking for 10% caps in Austin, Texas, the broker's going to know immediately that I don't know the market very well and that maybe I'm not a very savvy investor. So that's an important thing. And we're going to get into my exact criteria on the next slide, and we're going to talk about the rationale behind each selection. But then we're also going to talk here, so the last point in criteria is the market you invest in and also the sub-market, so the sub-area of that city that you look for specifically. So here is my criteria for Austin, Texas. So I'm looking for 1975 and newer, and the reason for that is there was a big plumbing change in Austin in about early 1970s. So I just want to stay clear of that, because if I have to fix all the plumbing in the property, I'm not going to see any returns on that because I can't raise rent for new plumbing. The tenants don't get to see the pipes. They don't necessarily care. It doesn't impact rent. The only thing that impacts rent is improvements that are going to improve the quality of life of the tenant visually, that they can feel and experience. And that's what gets you actual increase of your profit and your rent. So if I'm fixing, spending a bunch of money to fix the plumbing, then that's just coming out of my bottom line and out of my pocket, and I'm not going to actually be able to see the returns on that. So I'm looking for newer properties than that, and that's why the year is so important. Because number one, it lets you have a leeway conversation with the broker where I can make the point that I just made, and he goes, wow, okay, this guy knows his market. He might be a baby-faced 21-year-old, but he knows the year that the pipes were changed in this market. That's pretty minutiae information, or minute information. So he understands the market. And that's the whole point of these broker emails. We have to establish that we are credible, that we know what we're talking about. Then my cap rate range, like I said, we're somewhere from 5 to 7, 7 being kind of on the higher range in Texas, especially in Austin. So we're looking for more like the 5 to 6 range because we know that that's more realistic. And that's kind of the range that we're sending him. It shows us, number one, that we know the market cap rate, and also that we're not going to go and buy like this building right here, this big skyscraper on the right side of the screen. That is not what we're looking for. That thing right there is, a 2, 1, 3 cap somewhere in there. It's a very much an A-class building. That's not what we look for. We look for workforce housing, so we're going to be in this cap rate range. That tells us a lot about our credibility, and it's a really important thing to include. Then I personally look for 50 units and above, and the reason for this is the economies of scale. So depending upon your market, there will be a unit range where you start to break this threshold where you can afford to have on-site management and you can afford someone to be there all the time on payroll. And that is in Austin around the 50 unit mark. In some markets, like Louisville, for example, where the rents are a little bit lower, you're going to be at around 75 units. So I just know in my market, to hit economies of scale and have a full-time professional property management staff, I need to be around 50 units. Then my price range. So I can afford about a $4 to $10 million property at the moment because of the capital that I'm able to raise. So I need to know how much capital that I can raise going into this or how much I can afford. And that's just a key thing for you to know. And also it lets the broker know. Of course, I'm not going to be getting sent $100 million apartment complexes, obviously. I want this guy to know, hey, don't even waste my time with that because I can only afford this little range. And please don't send me $100 million complexes. But then also don't send me duplexes because I'm looking for 50 units and above. So it lets this guy know not to waste my time and also exactly what I'm looking for. And then my city. So my city and my submarket, I have Austin, Texas is my city. And then East Riverside, which is a very specific submarket in Austin, Texas. It's in the path of progress, and I believe that that's where growth is going to be seen in the next couple of years. So I'm looking to specifically just send me deals here. I don't want to waste my time with North Austin deals. I don't want to waste my time with South Austin, West Austin. Literally just give me this small sliver from East Riverside, because if something does pop up in there, I'm going to be the first guy on the mind, because he's going to be like, who was that guy who said East Riverside really specifically? Maybe I should send this guy the deal. And that's what we're looking for, because it's competitive and people are going to be asking for deals everywhere, all over the place. Oh, I'm just looking in Austin. Send me everything you got. Well, great. They'll send, those people will be on the second part of the list. You'll be at the top of the list for the East Riverside stuff. And that's what we're going for. So reach out to brokers. Where do I find brokers? Now, this is a great question, and a lot of people get confused on this one. So I have a 5-step process that should make it really easy for you guys. And a lot of people just got triggered when they saw the LoopNet logo. I'm not asking you to look at LoopNet for deals. Listings on LoopNet are not ideal. They are kind of the graveyard of real estate where everyone's picked through them and they're not good. But the loophole here, the thing that I'm suggesting you do, is go to the LoopNet directory. So almost no brokers post their deals on LoopNet, but almost every single broker has an account on LoopNet. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for their actual broker account. We want to get their information. So we're going to the LoopNet directory, and here's the link. It's loopnet.com/broker directory. And what it'll take you to is a little form where you can narrow down your search, and you can search by asset type, like multifamily. You can search by market, like Austin, and you can go and see about 40 pages of broker names, and you can just sift through the broker names and look for their broker website. So if you click on their profile on the LoopNet directory, it'll bring up their personal links. And on these personal links, you'll be able to go to their actual broker website. So here I have an example of a local broker in Austin, Muskin Commercial. And so I'll click on his website, and that'll actually take me to basically almost every broker website's laid out the same, so this should be pretty easy. Basically, they'll have some form of a sign in. And when you sign in and make an account, they can see it. So they'll see exactly who signs in, that you're looking at their deals. And that's a great way to build credibility before you reach out. Is number one, to see what their deals are. And then number two, it shows that you're active on their website, looking at deals, downloading financials. And that's really huge. So on their website, they'll have deals that are not on LoopNet, that are potentially decent in your market and worth looking at. And you can typically download the financials right from the website. And that's really huge, because if you can see those financials, then you can actually do a decent underwriting. And so what we're going to do is we're going to underwrite those deals on the website, and we're going to create a broker spreadsheet with all the brokers in multifamily that have good websites and have good information on them. And we're going to reach out to them systematically. And we're going to get into these last two in the second here, and why underwriting is really a big part of the email. So we want to make sure that we're signing in and that we're underwriting and keeping track. And here's why. So what do I say when I reach out to them? And this informs the strategy, right? We're knowing how to find them and what's on their website. So Kaylin asks, is it more professional to call or email the brokers? And it's not necessarily either or. It really depends on the way that you speak to them in whatever medium that you speak to them on. So if you're going to call them and you're mumbling and rambling, then it's not going to be more professional than a well-written email. So if you're a master at phone calls and you're one of those people who just kills it on phone calls, then maybe you kind of, strategize for you. It really comes down to where you can speak the most professionally. For me, I often prefer an email because I can deliberate over the text for, hours or days before I send it to this person. Whereas the phone call, maybe I just, I'm having an off day and I can't speak, and that happens sometimes. So I personally prefer emails, but I do know some people who are absolute killers on the phone and they prefer to call. So it's really up to you. The broker's not going to judge you based on the medium that you reach out to them on, most likely. So number one scenario, and this is why I was saying we're going to get into underwriting, is that the deal's on their website. So let's say they have a deal on their website, right? And you followed the steps 1 through 5. So you reach out, you go and on their website, then you see their deals and you underwrite one. Now that you have seen their deals, you know what they're offering, and you have some information on them, send them your analysis on those deals, or at least one of them, and why it fits your criteria. And that's going to be your first email. So they're going to be like, wow, this guy, I saw him sign in on my website. I saw him take the time to look at all my deals and download the financials. Then he sends me a sharp analysis, and I'm going to show you what an analysis looks like on the next slide. But we're going to talk to him exactly why it does or does not fit our criteria. Something, like, for example, if it's a 50 unit in Austin, Texas, and it's a $4 million deal, and it looks pretty good, but it's kind of in a rougher area of town, then I'll say, hey man, I saw that 55 unit on your website. It's around $4 million. That's exactly what I'm looking for. My criteria is 50 plus units, $4 to $10 million. But the thing is, it's just kind of not in my ideal market. So if you have anything in the future that is in this ideal market that's very similar to this deal on your website, then please let me know. And that as a first email is way better than, hey, I'm Billy Bob and I'm looking for multifamily. Like that's not going to stand out. Almost every single person sends that generic email of, I'm a multifamily investor and I'm looking for deals in your market, Austin, generally Austin. It's like, come on, man. We need to actually get in there and be specific about what it is that we're looking for so that this person takes us seriously and also knows exactly what we're looking for. So here's an analysis example because I know that's a broad term. So basically, here's something that I've used exactly. And so basically what I'm saying here is we've used the most recent rent roll provided by the seller plus all additional income collected over the past 12 months. And basically what I'm saying is here, I looked at the numbers, I did my pro forma, I did the new tax assessment because the 2019 taxes when I buy this thing are going to be higher. So that's going to be reflected in my price. And then here I got my NOI that it comes out to the dollar because I don't want to just put like, oh, 150K NOI because then they think like, oh, maybe this guy did like he just briefly did this. Like, no, I analyzed this. This is to the dollar. I know, and I want to put these numbers to be specific so this person knows I took my time. And then I'm going to say the purchase price, and that's going to put me at this cap rate. And that's pretty fair for the market that the market status at the time of this acquisition. So they're basically, this is going to fall right in the range of the market. So let's say this is a 6 to a 7% cap rate market. And I send him this kind of information. He's like, okay, the guy did his research. That's a pretty fair purchase price. It's smack dab in the middle of the cap rate range. And he told me exactly where he got his numbers from. Okay, this guy's probably legit. I'm at least going to take this person seriously. And that's kind of where I'm trying to get at is we want to be taken seriously. We're an investor. We're a business person. We are looking to do deals with this individual. We're hoping to gain them commission. So it's a win-win relationship. But we need to show them that we're someone capable of actually getting them the commission check that they want. So here's a scenario number 2, because not every time they're going to have deals on their website. And so I have another scenario here, which is they got all their contact info, which is pretty much 99% of people, but maybe they just don't have any deals on their website. So here's where you have a slightly more, the generic email, but we're still going to put our credibility in here because we want to let them know what we're looking for. So we're going to say, hello, my name is, Billy Bob. I'm an investor in the Austin area. I'm looking to purchase 1975 and newer B and C class apartment complexes, typically from 50 to 150 units. And then here's a little bit of a credibility thing that's slightly using the right lingo so that we can show them that we're in the industry and that we use the lingo, but it's not overdoing it so that we come off as, trying too hard. So this is what I've kind of crafted over the years. It's a good mix of showing them we know the lingo, but not trying too hard. So we say my team prefers to purchase underperforming assets so that we can add value through management efficiencies and renovations to bring the units to market value. So, we know the industry, we're doing value add, but we're not going to oversell it here. And then do you have any properties that fit this description? I will get my underwriting analysis back to you within 48 hours. So I'm quick. This is my full-time thing. I'm efficient. I am a businessman. I do things in a fast and orderly manner. And then looking forward to doing business with you. So pretty simple. And this is kind of scenario number 2. So if you're taking pictures of the slides, I'm actually going to give you guys these scripts at the end. So feel free just to sit back, relax, ask questions, and you don't have to copy this word for word because I'm literally going to give you these scripts, all of the scenario scripts at the end of the presentation. So scenario number 3, no financials available. So maybe they have deals, but they just don't have the financial information on the website, which is also pretty common. So we'll say, hey, first name of the broker. I saw the 104 unit on your website, and it's exactly the kind of deal that I specialize in. I'm just reaching out to you because I'd like to see the financials for the property, and then T12 and rent roll so he knows that you know the industry lingo. And then you say, I have a few questions about the property if you have time. And you can do this via phone or via email, this conversation, to further answer your question, Kaylin. So if you were someone who wanted to be on the phone, well, then you would say, I'd love to ask you a few questions. Here's my cell number. Let's talk. So now what are we going to say on this call or on the question, what questions are we going to ask this person basically? So here are my favorite questions. Number one is, where are the current rents in relation to the market? So what are the rents on this property that's on your website right now? And what can I get them to in the market? This is a good question because you obviously want to know this information to see what value you can add, but also it shows you kind of, you're seeing the credibility of the broker. If the broker doesn't know the market rent in the submarket in this kind of asset, then he's probably not the guy you want to work with because he maybe doesn't know his stuff as well as he needs to. He should know exactly what the pro forma rents are and how you can actually get it there. That's his job, and he's going to give you really good information if you ask this question. So how long has the property been on the market? This is where you can start to get into the story because you want to know, how long has this thing been on there? How many people have picked through it? Is this just up today? Do I have to act quickly? And then, why is this on the market? So have there been any offers yet? That's another great question. You want to know where you stand as far as competition, and you may not always get the most honest answer here. Unfortunately, it is kind of their job to get the highest price. So maybe they might say there's some phony offers in there, but at least this can start to get you into a conversation about what the purchase price is going to be, what the range is for the purchase price, what the guy's willing to accept, and that kind of stuff. And then here, why is the owner selling? So you want to know what his whole situation is, because this can really inform your purchase decision. If this person is in a tax situation where maybe they have some things that they have to pay and they're kind of against the wall, that's going to make the negotiation completely different than if this is someone who's owned the property for 20 years and is completely content to keep holding it unless you give him the price that he wants. So those are two way different negotiations. I've been in both ones, and I'll tell you that it's a lot harder when the guy is completely content to keep holding on, because he'll just be like, oh, that's not my price. Well, I'll see you later. I'll keep holding this thing. It's been doing great so far. And they just kind of want their price and they're not going to move. So you really want to know this so that it can totally inform your negotiation strategy. Then here we have, could you tell me a little bit about the tenant base? So a lot of times, the areas, especially if you're out of state, the property pictures and the overview of the area is going to be very glossy. They're not going to give you the information that maybe you're looking for. I've seen some that are documented as these very high-end up-and-coming areas, but they kind of back up to a homeless shelter or Salvation Army, and then there's cash checking places all around it, which is not indicative of the tenant base that we're looking for. So that's some questions that we need to ask. How are these people paying rent, and what is the tenant base like? Where are they employed? What are the major employers nearby? Just to inform our decision about the quality of asset that we're purchasing. Then here is our follow-up sequence. So the follow-up is more important than the introduction email by far. Almost everyone sends an introduction email, and some brokers will test you. They won't even respond to your intro email because they're going to see, hey, is this guy even going to stick around and make it worth my time? And basically, I've seen this happen. I'd say like 7 out of 10 brokers will purposely see your intro email and not respond. And the reason is they want to see how resilient you are and if you're actually going to follow up, because real investors follow up. So I have a generic email that I just copy and paste that goes out pretty much every 2 weeks. And then if someone responds to that, I will give them the personalized response because I have their information in a spreadsheet. So TJ asked the question, how do you respond when you've gone through your steps more or less with the broker and laying out criteria, but they send you a garbage deal? They know it's garbage and you know it's garbage. It's happened a few times, but not sure what to do or how to reply to get a credible deal thrown my way. This is a great question, TJ. And you've come to what I call one of the big barriers. I would number them, but there's too many to count at this point. But one of the barriers is they'll send you garbage deals for an extended period of time, and you have to give your best attempt at underwriting and basically pretend that you don't know it's a garbage deal and give them practical reasons without being too curt about why it's not a very good deal. So for example, the guy sends you a deal in the wrong end of town, where there's a lot of crime, and maybe the units are just not at all up to shape and it's going to cost too much for you to get it done. Well, then you would say something along the lines of, that doesn't fit my renovation budget. I typically try not to do heavy value add. We're looking for a medium to light value add. And now you're just further refining your credibility, and you just have to keep being resilient. Don't take it personally. And you got to look at it from this guy's perspective, TJ. He's getting about 150 TJs emailing him every day, maybe even more than that. So you have to kind of have some compassion from them and say like, man, this is not a good deal, but I'm still going to give this guy my best attempt at underwriting, further refine my criteria by saying why this deal isn't what I'm looking for, and then just continue to follow up and continue to underwrite those garbage deals, because I'm going to tell you, man, they will turn into good deals, and it's definitely worth the wait. Yeah, I would not take Kaylin's advice there at all. I don't think that would probably get you a deal, but it is funny. But yeah, you got to just keep going through. It's just a barrier. They put it up in front of a lot of people. So here's my example of a generic email. Hey, blah, blah, blah. Just wanted to follow up and see if you've had any luck with multifamily deals in my criteria. Just a reminder, my criteria is below. So that's the theme I keep hammering down, and I just hammered to TJ as well, is like criteria, criteria, criteria. This person needs to know what we look for, and we need to keep refining it, getting more and more focused so that they know, because eventually it just takes one deal, guys. It just takes one deal to really change your life and get into multifamily. So if you can laser focus, then they're going to send you that one deal. It's just a matter of time. And the more focused you are, the higher likelihood it is that you are the person that they send that to first. And when you get it first, your odds just go way up. So how do you spot an underperforming deal? So here are some tips. I believe there's 8 of them. So there's 2 pages here. And number 1 is that they're family run. So family run typically means that they're not being as optimal as they could as far as expenses and income are concerned. They're maybe not tracking their rent with the market rent as accurately or increasing it every year. And maybe they're leaving some tenants in there that have been there for a long time because, it's a family business. It's not a real professional company. So the way that we can tell that is either by asking the broker the story of the owner, or we can see that it's not owned by an LLC or a professional company. And we don't see any sort of professional management company on site. It's more of kind of a mishmash of random people or subcontractors. And that's a great sign for us as purchasers because we know that they're missing a lot of efficiencies there that we can add when we buy it. Number 2 is high reoccurring expenses. So noticeably high expense lines, compared to the market averages. So we're seeing that potentially, like the first deal that I did in Louisville, we were looking at Payroll, and they were paying an individual $90,000 a year to be the manager of a apartment complex. And the market average rate for Payroll, as far as managers are concerned, is like 35 grand. So we knew immediately, like, hey, that guy's making a great salary and good for him, but we can't keep paying that. So we're going to be able to cut that in half, even more so, in the first day of ownership, and that was a huge thing. So as soon as I saw high reoccurring expense, I was like, man, this is a huge opportunity. And number 3 would be undermanaged. So if someone has a very low payroll expense, then they're probably being self-managed by the owner, and that's a good thing to look for. So, in my case, I saw a very high payroll, but also on the other side, if you see a very low payroll, then you're also probably in a good situation where you can go and take advantage of someone who's not managing it correctly. Then we're going to look for low occupancy rates. So lower than 93, I would say lower than 90, but then you have to worry about not being able to get a loan for the property. And so I've kind of changed my criteria to looking for more like around the 93 mark, just under the market average of occupancy. Because again, if it's lower than 90, it's going to be hard to secure agency debt because they have some rules and regulations about accepting deals that are lower than 90. And that's just something that we don't really want to deal with. So here are some more tips for spotting an underperforming deal. Number 5 is deferred maintenance. So it's visibly distressed, meaning you drive it, you see long grass, broken windows, and trash. You have rents below market, but more than just like, $5 below market or something like that. We're looking for a big like $50 gap there that we can really improve and make some additions there and get some more income. Then we're looking for down units. So this is another thing that really helped me out on my first deal. The 107 unit property that we purchased was actually 106 units, we thought. And then there was one extra unit that was just full of storage, and it had fully plumbed out. It could easily be turned into a unit with just some renovation. And that added a whole nother unit to the property. So we were absolutely ecstatic when we found that, and added a lot of value to the deal. But then number 8 would be a lack of additional income streams. So from these things right here, the laundry income or any other miscellaneous stuff like that, rubs and fees, you can add about 15 to 20% to the income of the property just by doing these things. So for fees, what I like to do is a move-in fee, because when you're doing a security deposit, that money is not yours. It has to be held in an escrow account, and the security deposits cannot be counted towards your income. So, and also you never get it back, really. You almost never are able to keep those. And typically the tenant does do some damage. It's difficult to take those. And then also there's a lot of conflict between you and the tenant at the end. And we want to remove all the conflicts so that we can have a good experience for the tenants. So if we can just charge a lower move-in fee than a security deposit would be, we can guarantee that we're going to receive that as income. Whereas the security deposit, tenants typically consider that money lost anyways. Like, for example, if you've ever gotten your security deposit back, you typically celebrated and you were like, oh, I got this free money, right? Well, it was your money all along. And it's kind of like they're not even expecting it or really thinking that it's their money. They've already considered it lost. So if we can make it lower and have it be a move-in fee that's non-refundable, then we're going to actually have a lower cost for them to get in, which is going to make them happy. And then we don't have to argue like, hey man, you left 4 holes in your wall. And they're like, no, it was like that when I got there. And then that's a whole conversation that you don't want to do. And you'll end up having to pay a lawyer probably more than the security deposit itself in order to get it. So you end up just giving them the security deposit, and that's never fun. So let's just remove that and try to do a move-in fee if we can. So here is a list of broker questions. Is the property owned by an individual or an entity? What can you tell me about the property, the unit mix, the neighborhood, the build year? So these are just a list of questions, and I'll give these to you as a download. If you ever run out of questions to ask and I recommend a blended approach. Keegan, probably a good idea. It's always good to be somewhere in the middle here and to ask a bunch of different blended questions to try to be on either end of the spectrum here. So a list of broker questions, we're going to continue through here. We have a couple pages of this, and this will be available for download at the end. We'll put a link probably in an email tomorrow with the question list, and we will give these to you guys. If you ever run out of questions, it's just good to have a list so that you know what to ask. But basically, we're always trying to get the story. We're always trying to see about the property. Oh, I see what you're saying. A blended approach as far as the deposit and the move-in fee. Yeah, that can be definitely a good thing as well. Depends on what people want. But then you still have to have that escrow account open and being managed, which is just something that I don't want to do. So I personally just want to be at the move-in fees only. But yeah, I could see how that would be a good incentive, but it is just still going to be more work for you. So broker questions. Are the tenants paying for utilities, or is the rent all inclusive? And again, these are just some more broker questions that we can send you tomorrow if you'd like. But again, we're trying to get the story. We're trying to understand the property better, and we're trying to use it as an opportunity to refine our criteria even more. So here is a fun part, the 110-1 rule for the LOIs. So submitting your letter of intent. So goal crushing, how to get an offer accepted in the next 5 months. So TJ, this might apply to you and apply to a lot of other people who right now are looking for a deal. It really does take some time, like 5 months, for example here. If we're going to analyze 5 deals a week, that's just Monday through Friday, take the weekend off. That's pretty doable. And if we do that, we can get to 100 deals, right? Because if you go back here, we're looking at the 110-1 rule. And what that means is 100 deals underwritten, 10 deals offered on, and we're going to get 1 deal. That's pretty much the rule of thumb here for real estate. So we want to try to get to that rule as quickly as we can. So if we analyze 5 deals a week, that's 4 a week. I mean, that's 5 times 4 because there's 4 weeks in a month. That is 20 deals a month, 5 months. That's 100, right? So now we've underwritten 100 deals in 5 months, and that's what we're looking for. Then we send an LOI every 2 weeks. So that's going to be 2 a month for 5 months. That's 10 LOIs. And sending 1 every other week is not too crazy for an LOI. I think that that's very doable. These numbers are pretty doable for most people, even if you have a full-time job, because underwriting takes about an hour or two. Just set aside an hour or two a day during the week to do 5 a week, and you should hit these numbers in about 5 months. So what do we put in our LOI? Number 1, you want to put the purchase price, of course. Then you want to put the amount deposit that you're going to put down, any contingencies that you have, and we're going to break these kind of things down in a second here. Any extension options in case something goes wrong and we need to extend the contingency period. The day is still closing. I typically do a 60-day with extension options to get it up to a 90-day. And then the expiration date of the actual offer, the actual LOI, so that they have to get back to you as soon as possible. And then how I arrived at my pricing. So similar to that analysis back on the earlier slide, I want to tell them exactly how I got the price that I got. And then name, photo, and signature. So that's typically just at the bottom. And we'll give you an LOI template again at the end of this, which would be really cool. So what contingencies to include? I typically have loan contingencies that allow me to extend twice 15 days. So that'll take mine from a 60-day close to a 90-day if my loan requires it. Then I'll have an inspection contingency. So basically, I need to be able to see all of the units. And also, if I find anything during inspection, I want to be able to walk out if there's something that's just completely misrepresented that I didn't know about and that I should have known about, and I inspect and I find it, then I want to have the ability to back out. Then a title contingency. So if there's some claims against the property, some liens, some like lawsuits that I'm going to inherit, well, maybe I want to be able to back out if that's the case, depending upon how egregious these claims are, because I don't want to inherit those if I'm taking the title on the property. And then environmental contingency. Did I ask for seller financing on any of my deals, Gloria? I personally didn't, because there's such good financing options in commercial multifamily from people like Fannie and Freddie who are going to be able to give me non-recourse loans with somewhere around 70 to 80% LTV. So I want to be able to just utilize those and raise the capital for the down payment. But I haven't actually looked into seller financing. I'm sure that there will actually be a really good opportunity coming 2021 with all of the economic turmoil that may come our way from all of the unemployment due to coronavirus. And potentially there may be some sellers who are in a hard position who would be okay with a seller finance. So maybe that's something that you could ask in the coming months. And then an environmental contingency. So basically, if I find something that's an environmental issue, I want the ability to back out of that as well, because those are typically costly and complex to fix. So overview of the process. Number one, we're going to underwrite. Then we're going to submit our LOI. And from there, we get to negotiate our purchase of sale agreement, which actually starts the escrow process and starts the deal being under contract. Then we have the escrow contingent period, where we are in escrow, but we have the ability to back out. It's contingent. And then we remove contingencies, and it goes hard, so to speak. So your money that you have as a deposit goes hard, meaning you can't get it back if you back out at this point. And then you close after that. So that is a brief overview of the process. And here is the 110-1 commitment. So if you analyze 7 deals a week, meaning every day, including the weekends, it's going to take you 15 weeks to your first deal, or 3 to 4 months. And these are like the 3 options. So I'd like for you guys to put in the chat what option you think you can adhere to and commit to it. Because if we can get a commitment from everybody here, if they're going to do option number 1, which is 7 deals a week, option number 2, which is 1 deal per week, which will take you 100 weeks, about 2 years, or 1 deal a day, Monday through Friday, which would be about 20 weeks or 5 months. So that'll be option 3. So just put in the chat, 1 to 3, depending upon what it is that you're going to commit to. We have Kaylin committing to 1 a day. Kaylin, is that going to be 1 a day, 7 days a week? We have Gloria at 3. That's 20, so 5 months. Awesome, Gloria. What is your underwriting process, items that you look at? So TJ, that was the last webinar, and we can talk about that in depth in the Q&A. I'll try to get it as in depth as I can in the Q&A here. But let's just finish up the how to find a deal, and then we can get into that at the end. Number 3 I do not want to butcher your name. I apologize. Just out of respect to you. Number 3, we have 1 a week from David Wright. Fantastic. Josh, 1 a day. Julius, 7 days per week. Josh, 5 a week. Omar, 3. Fantastic. Attempt to try 2 a day. Fantastic. Yeah, Kaylin, if you can, go for it. We got TJ at 1 a day. Steve, 3. John, 5 per week. Fantastic, guys. That's a really good option. It just shows you guys how close you are, because sometimes we get our head, banged up against the wall and we think, man, these guys just keep sending me really bad deals. But we really are just somewhere from 3 to 5 months away from being able to get a deal. And it does take you looking at about 100 of them. So you have to be ready and willing to look at about 100 deals and underwrite them and give feedback on at least 10 of them as an LOI. And then hopefully you can close on 1. Typically you are able to. That's been my experience and a lot of other people's experience. So I'm glad that we got a commitment, and I hope that everyone can stick to that and that we can move forward in the future with those commitments. So here are the key points. The LoopNet broker directory, that is where you will find information. Do not go to LoopNet for deals. You will be disappointed. But if you go to the broker directory and you look for their website, then we can actually go to their website and we can find a lot of information on their real deals that are actually quality and worth looking at. Then we need to define our criteria. We need to know exactly what it is that we're looking for, and we need to keep refining this over and over again to these people so that they know exactly what it is that we're looking for. And then number 5 months away from a deal. So yeah, we just spoke about that. We are very close. And remember the 110-1 rule. This is a rule and it will be in effect. So we're going to start the Q&A here, and I'll turn my video back on. Basically, you're going to get the opportunity to sign up for a free 30-minute strategy session with me. So I'm going to give that to you guys. I'd love to sit down on a call and try to help your personal situation, getting closer to your first deal, raising capital, doing the whole shebang. So we'll set aside 30 minutes, and we'll put that Calendly link in the chat. So Adam will actually be putting a link in the chat box in a second here that is going to be the ability for you to sign up for a free call. And we're also going to give you the LOI template and the broker scripts. So all of those broker emails that we went over and some more, those are going to be in there. So yeah, the link for the free call is now in the chat box. Thanks, Adam. And then we can also download the LOI template, which will be the exact LOI template I use, because I know that that's a big hurdle for people. How do I submit an LOI? How professional does it need to be? Do I need a lawyer? All this stuff. Well, I'm going to give you the exact one I use so you can use it. And there is the link for the LOI template. Adam is awesome, guys. So yeah, thank you, Adam, for putting the links in there. So if you click those links, you'll be able to get access to the LOI template. And the first link will give you the free call. So you can sign up for a free call with me, and we can chat about your personal situation and how to get you closer to your, and then the broker scripts that get you closer to your first deal. And then the broker scripts, so I'm going to give those to you guys at the quarantine on Friday. So if you don't know what the quarantine is, It's a Friday mastermind, and we have it. It's open to the public. It's totally free for everyone to join. And we extend this Q&A to it's basically office hours, essentially, where you can ask me literally any question you want. And you have a whole group of people there. We break into these breakout rooms where you get to be in groups of little 5 on Zoom. We have the ability to break you into little rooms, and you get to really meet these 5 people, build a network, and then we come back together for a big Q&A, and you can ask literally any questions. So that'll be on Friday, and we'll be sending you an email during the week to join that. So I hope that you guys come to that. That'll be a lot of fun, and we'll give you the broker scripts there. So again, we're trying to incentivize you guys to go because it actually is a really good opportunity for you to get information. And I want to give you guys as much free info as I can. So the more that you guys come to the stuff that we put on, the more free info you get and the better everything can be. So that's awesome. And then also, we're going to do the deal analyzer. So as a bonus, I'm going to give you guys my deal analyzer. So TJ, you asked about my underwriting process, and we can get into that right now. So I have a deal analyzer that I'm going to give you guys for free. And it shows you kind of how to go through the analyzation process. It gives you the ability to break down the GP returns as well as the LP returns. So pretty much every analyzer gives you the ability to show how much your investors are going to make, but almost none of them give you the ability to show how much you're going to make as a GP. So we can split the GP into different percentage roles, and then we can show you to the dollar amount what you're going to make in year 1, and then also the total project. So that's a really cool feature. And we also have a feature where we're able to show you your break-even occupancy. So what amount of occupancy can you drop to and still be able to pay the bank? And that's a huge opportunity. So Kaylin asks, is LoopNet the best way to find brokers? The brokers only send me deals they have on LoopNet. Is it worth underwriting since it is potentially a bad deal? So Kaylin, the LoopNet is not a good way to find deals, but it is a good way to find brokers. So if you go to the broker info, like if you actually go to the directory, and you look at the list of brokers, you click on a guy's name, he'll have links on the left side of the page. If you click those links, it'll be a link to their website, their personal website, not LoopNet, but their personal website. And on their personal website, they'll have deals that you can look at there. So don't look at deals on LoopNet. If they send you deals on LoopNet, they're potentially testing you and saying like, hey, let's make sure you can even underwrite this bad deal before I send you a good deal, right? So that's something where maybe you bust through the barrier, you underwrite the bad deal. But also, they should have deals on their website that you can have access to their financials. And I know you're in San Antonio because I know you personally. There's a lot of brokers in San Antonio that have deals on their website. So you don't have to ask them for the deal. You can just go to their website, download the financials, and underwrite it. And then you can start underwriting some good deals that are actually on their website, not on LoopNet. So that would be my advice for you. But yeah, feel free to ask as many questions in the chat box as you can. We have the Q&A is like fully on right now, so ask whatever you want about the presentation, about real estate in general. I'd love to help you guys out. Let me also check the Q&A because I'm sure that there's some in here. Yeah, I've only been looking at the chat box. So we got 4 in the Q&A. John, so since February, the deal flow has drastically reduced. I was doing 3 LOIs a week pre-COVID. Now it is more like one every 2 weeks. So 1 every 2 weeks is actually fine, and that'll still get you on that 5-month track. The deal flow obviously has reduced, and I would be cautious to looking at the deals. And my question to you maybe would be, and put it in the chat box, but how are you predicting the rent growth and the vacancy growth or, decline for the actual effects of COVID-19? That's been my trepidation, is just I'm not really sure what rent growth is going to be. I typically have it estimated to be 0 or negative. So that would be kind of one of my situations with doing deals in COVID. But yeah, even 1 every 2 weeks is still a pretty good clip. That's what I recommend for most people getting started. So yeah, it's not ideal, but it's definitely not bad. Have you seen the supply starting to loosen up? I have not seen the supply, John, really starting to loosen up at all. I'm assuming that that's going to happen later in the year. Right now, we haven't really seen the full effect because real estate typically does lag about 6 months from the stock market, and we saw a lot of volatility there early in the year. So I'm expecting probably in the next 6 months for there to be some more loosening. So let's go back to the chat here. Omar, how many brokers in general do you deal with in the same market? As many as I can possibly do with my bandwidth. So if I start getting stressed out because I'm talking to too many, then I'll rein it in a little bit. But if you can get a good spreadsheet system going, or even a CRM, you can pay for a CRM to keep track of everything. You can try to talk to literally as many as humanly possible. The more opportunity that you have, the higher likelihood it is that you find a deal, Omar. So as long as you can keep it somewhat personal, and do a good job with each one, then I would say try to do as many as you can put on your plate. But that varies person to person. Gloria, you're built. How do you figure out what to use in an area like you did with Austin? So Gloria, the main answer there would just be getting to know the market by talking to people in it, like brokers, like fellow investors, Googling things, going to biggerpockets.com and asking in the forums, but basically just trying to get a feel for the market. In Austin, it's pretty well known that the plumbing has changed quite a bit since 1975-ish, 1973-ish. And that's just something that I figured out in the first maybe month or two of asking around in Austin what the deal was. And you'll, again, like I said, the criteria will continue to be refined and refined and refined over time. So don't be worried if your criteria isn't as precise as mine at this point. Hopefully over time, yours will get closer and closer. So we have, is it detrimental reaching out to too many brokers at once? I kind of answered that in Omar's. I think if you can, it would be detrimental if you started calling them the wrong name and stuff like that. Like you're talking to Bob and you call him Billy and you're talking to him about a deal that you got from Bob and you're kind of fumbling everyone's around. Then of course you're probably reaching out to too many people. But if you can handle it, the more the better, in my opinion. So David Wright, have you suspended distributions due to limited partners, to limited partners due to COVID? So no, David, I have not personally. I've been super blessed and thankful and grateful that our vacancy really hasn't fallen below 90% on my properties. That is either just kind of lucky, but also the collections have actually been pretty solid across multifamily, even with COVID. So I don't really know what that is. We don't have enough information. Some of the theories out there right now, David, are that people are looking for some sort of control. And so they're able to pay their rent. And that's about all they can control right now in this turmoil. So they're like really focused on paying the rent. And then we've noticed collections being solid. That's just a theory. I have no real evidence behind that. That's anecdotal. But that's been one of the theories I've heard floated around. But collections have actually been pretty solid through COVID. So we've been fine as far as distributions and everything like that. Omar, any tips in selecting the best broker over people not being that good? So qualifying brokers, these question lists that I'm going to give you guys in the email over the week will help you to really verify how much this broker knows. Like for example, one of the questions was, what's the current market rent in relation to the rent right now that this person's getting actually? And if they don't know questions like that, then you can tell, okay, maybe this isn't the best broker and I should focus my time on another one. What systems do you use to track deals? So to keep up with my deals, what ones I've looked at, what brokers I've reached out to, I just use a basic spreadsheet. I'm not really, like you can use a CRM and there's a bunch of really cool ones out there. I don't really know of them because I don't use them too much. But there's a bunch of different ways that you can send auto emails, track this stuff, do CRMs. But right now I just use a spreadsheet. So David, what are your goals for new deals in 2020 and 2021? So David, I'm going to be patient and see what happens with the market and supply loosening up and things like that, and us seeing the lag from the stock market. But my goals would be to do as many deals as possible, because I think that come 2021 especially, there's going to be a big expansion in cap rates and potentially in pricing. So I'm going to be able to buy things at a lower price than normal. But again, that's totally a theory. I've heard people say that multifamily is actually going to be bolstered because of the fact that it's done so well through the COVID so far, that people from other asset classes are going to come and further drive down the cap rates of multifamily. But that's, again, just another theory, and no one really knows. So for me, ideally, I think personally, this is my personal opinion, I'd say that I think prices are going to soften and that we're going to see an expansion of cap rates and the ability to switch to more of a buyer's market. And in that case, I want to buy as many as I possibly can. But right now, I'm being patient until we can be clear as to what the actual environment's going to be. Steve Williams, are you just doing apartments at this time? How about storage facilities? So Steve, I'm just doing apartments because I'm all about focus. If you ever asked Warren Buffett or Bill Gates what their most important thing to them and their success was, they will say focus. Both of them have said it simultaneously in the interview, actually. If you go and watch the interview on YouTube, they're both being interviewed. The interview says, what's the most important thing to your success so far in your life? And literally on cue, they both say focus. So focus is extremely important to me. I just focus on apartments because I just want to be the best at one thing, because that's all it really takes. But storage facilities are a great option, and they typically come with a little bit less maintenance, and they're definitely good options. Multifamily is typically slightly more recession resistant, but storage facilities are definitely a great option. And if you're looking into it, I'd say, definitely do your research. I think it's a good option. But for me, I'm just all apartments. I want to be focused. So Brandon says, I feel like brokers can be such a bottleneck in this process. Do you see that changing in the future as tech companies moving towards iBuying? Oh yeah, and I can't wait for that day to come. Honestly, Brandon, I can't wait for that day to come. It's kind of starting to happen in the residential space, which I apologize to brokers if you're on this call. I'm sorry. It does seem like that industry is kind of starting to get squeezed. But in commercial right now, they have a pretty strong grip. But I think that eventually that will go away as tech gets better and people can start getting into this, buying online and not needing brokers, because it really is so unnecessary and they are a huge bottleneck, and it becomes this like old boys club where you have to know a guy to be in there. And it's just so frustrating at first, especially when you're 20 like me. I'm 21 at the time. I was 20 when I started, and it was just like breaking into that club was so frustrating and it just felt unnecessary. So I hope that the bottleneck gets removed, but I have no idea when that's going to happen, but I think that it will happen eventually. Steve, okay, that sounds good, but yes, apartments are a good way to, thanks. Are a good way to, yeah. So yeah, basically both of them are great options, and I encourage you just to do your research on both and see what's right for you personally. I'm just all about focus. So here's an anonymous question from the Q&A. It says, have you ever been in a broker's call for offers on a deal? If so, can you discuss what to expect on the call for offers? So yeah, in the past year, almost everything's been a call for offers. Basically, all that happens is you all submit your deals, and often they'll do like a buyer interview where you'll have to go on a call, like a Zoom call, and you'll have to talk about your credibility, maybe even some of your financial backing, and why it is that you're going to be able to actually close on the price that you give. Because if they accept your LOI and you guys start drafting a purchase of sale, but then you're actually not qualified to buy, and they've just told everyone else to go over there and that your deal's not accepted, well, then those people are going to be disgruntled and they're going to have power to come back and negotiate. And if you fall through, then they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. So you'll have these kind of a little bit intrusive buyer interviews in those situations, which are not always fun, especially for me because I'm 21 and it's hard for me to really sell that credibility. But you can do it, right? I've done it before. It's difficult, but it's doable. Omar, are brokers specialized only in 100 plus units and others in less than 100 plus units? Not always. I see people all over the map. There's some people who specialize in like high quality A class, but typically, I'll see people all over the board. One of my main brokers in Austin, he'll list the 12 unit one day, he'll list the 75, he'll list the 90, a 130, somewhere in that range. Typically, you'll see people who are listing 150 plus, maybe like 200 plus, being separate from everyone else. But you'll typically see most brokers are somewhere from like the 10 units all the way up to maybe 150, 175. So there's not too much focus there. Then if you use a third-party property management company, do you have any standard underwriting assumptions for management fees and payroll? Yes, so they vary market to market. In Austin, my payroll assumption is going to be $1,000 per door. So that's going to be per door per year. That's going to be my payroll. Ideally, that's pretty much the average in Austin. And then for fees on management companies, I'm looking at about 4 to 5% of gross income going to my management company. So that is typically in Austin pretty even. I'd say that management percentage is probably good across the country in most places. The payroll does vary pretty heavily though. In Austin, it's about $1,000 per door. Okay, we have Alec Chapman. Any tips or strategies for going after off-market mom and pop deals? So Alec, there's a company called Reoccurring. I'm not sure how accurate it is, and it's rather expensive per month. I'm not a big fan of the going straight to the mom and pops just because it does seem as that strategy has kind of been found out. And the direct mail thing seems to be costly and not that effective. So we're looking at less than a 1% conversion rate of even opening those and getting any form of response, positive or negative. So for me, like spending all the money, doing all the research to send direct mail, and I'm only going to get maybe 0.5% respond. And then half of that 0.5% is going to be people saying to never talk to them again. And then maybe I get a little percentage of people saying, yeah, maybe in 5 years I'll talk to you. So for me, it's like, and I know that that's pretty my slant on it, but for me, I'm not a big fan of that. But I would say look into Reoccurring. That's a good website for skip tracing and finding the off-market information. So for your first multifamily deal, did you get private capital sorted out first, or did you finalize the deal first? So you're going to want to get capital sorted out first, because in a syndication, you actually have to have a pre-existing and substantive relationship with the person. And that's just legal speak for you got to know the guy. So I had to know the person first before I could get them to invest with me. It has to be pre-existing to the deal. So I'm actually legally required to raise this capital prior. And that's why I teach to raise capital the whole process always while you're looking for deals. Because like we've said here, it's going to take you about 5 months to find a deal. So we know that right now. So let's start raising capital for that 5 month period. And then when that 5 months hits and we find the deal, boom, we've been raising capital for 5 months. We're ready to go. And that's kind of the process. So TJ, I'm not sure if I missed, but I can't find the link to your deal analyzer. So I believe that we're going to send the deal analyzer since it's a bigger file. We're probably going to send that in an email that's going to go out tomorrow. The other two were links to websites. So yeah, but we'll give you the deal analyzer tomorrow for sure. So I'm just going to keep looking for questions here. Feel free to keep asking questions. It's 7:56, so we got some more time. I've gone through the Q&A. Here we got, oh, okay. CJ, here is the link actually. We got the analyzer as a link as well. So if you click that link, you'll get the deal analyzer. Anyone, TJ included, who clicks that link, you'll get the free deal analyzer. Dude, you rock. Of course, TJ, of course. How many investors do you normally work with? So it depends on the deal size of the capital raise. Steve, I'd ideally like to work with as few as possible, just because it is more work for me to keep everybody up to date. And typically the people who invest more money, they typically have more money and they don't care about losing it necessarily. So they're less involved. Of course, I'm never going to lose anyone's capital. I have a deal analyzer that allows me to see the worst case so that I know I'm probably not going to lose any money. But the thing is, the people who invest 25K or 50K, it's typically most of their money. So they're going to be calling me on a weekly basis, telling me, hey, how's the deal going? Is everything okay? Whereas I've seen that people who are investing big chunks of money, they're typically like, yeah, man, do whatever you want with it, man. I got a lot more where that came from. And I'd much rather work with someone who's a little bit more calm about the money so that I don't have to get the emotional phone calls in the evenings. Those are typically not ideal. But yeah, I've typically seen the less investors with the more capital, it typically is easier all the way around for everybody. So I try to work with as few as possible. Great content, Kyle. You are awesome at this. You're getting awesome at this. Yeah, I appreciate it, Kelvin. It's definitely been an improvement from the first one. I think that it's getting, better every week, and that's all I can ask for, really. So continual improvement, man. Kaizen, right? So what markets are you based in? Are you in besides Austin? So right now I'm focused on Austin. It's kind of been the theme of some of the stuff I've said is focus, focus, focus. I'm really big on focus. I think that that's a huge part of success. So I'm focused just on Austin, but I was the guy who was all over the place. I have a deal in Louisville and a deal in Atlanta, and I still monitor those. And the great thing is when you have a good property management company, it takes you about an hour to two a week to really stay on top of it, which is ideal. And it's mainly from a laptop and a phone call. So that's ideal. And then I visit once a quarter. But right now I'm focused in Austin. And there's a good quote that it's by Confucius. And he says, "He who chases two rabbits catches none." And I've found that to be very true in my life, where if I'm going after two different things at the same time and I can't really pick, and I'm too scared to choose one, so I just chase both, you end up with neither, man. And I've found that to be pretty true for my whole life. So I'm right now focusing on one rabbit only. I'm going to catch the thing, and that's kind of my philosophy at the moment. Cool. So yeah, just keep the questions coming in, and yeah, we'll keep this going a little bit after 8, and I think that that's going to be a good time. Nice presentation. Looking forward to our call next week. Yeah, thanks. And guys, again, remember to sign up for those free calls. I'm offering a free 30-minute strategy session where we can talk about your current situation, how I can help you get from where you are to where you want to be. Any specific questions that you have about your specific situation, feel free to sign up for a strategy session. That link is in the chat, and it'll also be in an email probably tomorrow with the recording and everything of that nature. So just keep a lookout for those emails during the week, because we're going to have an email to the recording and the YouTube. We're also going to have an email to the quarantine on Friday where you'll be able to get all the scripts. So Steve asks, have you worked with an owner that is willing to carry some of the paper for a certain period of time? I have not personally, because it's been such a seller's market and people are basically like, they can do whatever they can. They are spoiled for choice, right? They're the pretty girl at the bar and we kind of have to go up to them and sell them on us, right? But now it's kind of starting to open up a little bit. So maybe this is an opportunity later in the year. But I personally don't have any experience with that because I've kind of invested in a seller's market so far where basically, I'm not in the power position there necessarily. I do my best to get the best price I can that works with my criteria. And I haven't really found too many flexible sellers at the moment. Yeah, keep those questions coming in. I appreciate you guys, especially the people who are asking a decent amount. This is a good opportunity to ask some questions. And if you sign up for the free call, then fantastic as well. We still got 27 guys on here, so I know that there's some people in here. Just feel free to ask the questions, and I'll be sure to answer to the best of my ability. And we're coming up on 8, so probably just a couple more minutes, and then we can end this, as it seems the questions are starting to slow down a little bit. How often do you visit your properties to overlook the property managers? Is it okay to invest long distance? It's absolutely okay to invest long distance. I visit once a quarter. And I do a secret shop visit, so I won't tell them I'm coming because I want to know what the property's actually like, right? If I give these people a month in advance that I'm coming, then they can clean it all up, make sure all their issues are not there, but I'll go once a month or once a quarter secretly, and I'll make sure that all those renovations that I got quoted for during the year on my business account, I'll check QuickBooks and say, oh, I got quoted for we got a new sign at the property. It cost me 12 grand. Okay, well, I'm going to make sure that there's a new sign when I go, right? I don't want to give them a month leeway and then them go, oh, okay, all of a sudden we got to put up a sign. No, if they charge me for the sign and I go in 2 weeks to see the property without telling them, I want the sign to be there, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing with those secret visits is I'm trying to hold them accountable to what they're quoting me for and what they're charging me for and the budget. So, and also I want to check the units. So if they're saying that a unit's vacant, there's been times where property managers will take cash under the table from a tenant, and then they'll just pocket the cash and say the unit's vacant. So when I go, I'll knock on those vacant units and I'll be like, hey, is anyone in there? And if someone comes and opens the door and the unit's vacant, I know that the property management company is probably taking that for cash under the table. So I'm always coming and trying to see what the actual situation is. And if I can, find out that maybe they're not doing the best job and that I need to move on with the property management company. Because at the end of the day, it's an investment. It's really important for me to keep that tip shape. And also when I come, I'm an out of state owner. So like they need to respect that I'm actually on my stuff and I actually know what's happening. So when I do visit, I'm pretty stringent and detail oriented and I'll make sure to really get on people. Omar, thanks, Kyle. Great content. Good to see you today. Yeah, great to see you. It's awesome that you're watching all the way from Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure what time it is there, but I appreciate you showing up always and asking great questions. So Brandon, are you walking every single unit during the due diligence, and what sort of things are you looking for? So I'll walk it with my property management company, and it's really cool because they have a whole team and they'll go through with iPads. So they have a checklist of what they need, and that iPad will actually link to a main cloud form, and it'll go by unit. So they'll like a team of 5 of them will walk in every unit, and I'll walk into the majority of them as well. And they'll click the box as far as, okay, they have everything they're looking for on their iPad and they're checking, and then it all links to the thing. So you don't have to worry about it too much as far as what's being checked on the very minute details. But you want to look at how water is going to interact with the property. That's what I've been taught from people who are much smarter than me, is like the whole time you're there, you're looking, okay, how's water going to react with this environment? Because water is typically the damage, right? There's rain, there's pipes, there's things like that. What's the slope like? How's water going to interact with the environment that the property's in? And you'll start to see water pooling in specific areas. You'll see that there's on the top corners of the drywall, sometimes you'll see like a water stain, and you'll want to check if there's maybe a leak in the outer part of the roof that's there. And there's just a lot of different, mainly water is your main focus. I've come to realize that it all comes kind of back to how water is interacting. So that's a really good thing to focus on. Thank you, Kyle. Great info across the board. Good luck with you and your future deals. Thank you so much for showing up and asking great questions. I appreciate you. This is my first time to join you, and I was not expecting this much information. This is great. Yeah, of course, Steve. I try to give literally as much as humanly possible. I just want to be the person who gives more information than anybody else, and all for free. So I appreciate you guys showing up and coming out. It's awesome. Kathy, I just joined. Can I get the recording? Thanks. Yes, the recording will be available tomorrow on YouTube, and also we're going to send you an email to it. So please look out for your email. Everybody look out for your email. There's going to be a lot of stuff. You're going to get the ability to sign up for that call. The link's already in the chat to sign up for a call with me, free 30-minute strategy session. But also, it'll be in the email tomorrow as well as the recording and a lot of other information. Or later this week, we'll send an info about a mastermind like office hours that we're having on Friday called the Quarantine. So just check your email, Kathy, and pretty much everything that you could ever want is going to be in there. So I appreciate you showing up, even though you showed up a little bit late. You probably messed up the time zone, which I totally understand. But yeah, thank you for showing up when you did, and the recording will be available. So I hope that helps. And it's 8:05, so I don't want to hold you guys too long, but if there's any more questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll just keep answering the last ones. As it slows down a little bit, we'll probably end it here in a couple minutes because I know everybody's got stuff to do. But we still got 23 people on the call, so if you guys have some questions, feel free to answer, and I'll try to give my most detailed and best information that I can. Cool, looks like it's starting to slow down potentially, but yeah, feel free to ask a question if you're still here and you got some. Kyle, thanks. The deal analyzer looks great. My goal will be how to run a projection. So yeah, John, if you have any questions about how to run a actual like pro forma for a deal, the webinar that I recorded last week is on YouTube. And there, it's all about, we walk through the entire deal analyzer page by page, how to analyze a deal specifically. And also, if you sign up for a call for free, we can talk about that in real detail. Because I'd love to like really break that down, but it'll probably take me a good 20, 30, maybe more time than that to actually get into how to analyze a deal and project outward. But I'd love to help you out, John. So if you sign up for a call or you go watch the YouTube video, that'll be awesome. So Julius, how did you get your investors to take you seriously just starting out? So again, I will give you my best absolute answer because I don't want to be the guy that says, hey, go check this out, go check. So I'll give you the best answer. Basically, it comes down to your command of the topic. And to give you a brief overview of the webinar that we did 2 weeks ago that's on YouTube, Julius, is I try to talk about how to actually, when you interact with a human being, the first thing that happens is you perceive them in your amygdala. So your amygdala is a fear center of your brain. It's an older area of your brain because at the end of the day, we are kind of animals, right? So we are starting from a place of, is this individual a threat? So if we're thinking about that, we have to understand that people can't accept numerical information. That takes place in their prefrontal cortex that happens later in the conversation. So if you're opening with an investor and you're saying, hey, you're going to make 500 grand in 5 years, they can't even perceive that information because they're still perceiving the conversation in their amygdala. So you have to tell them a story-based emotional information at the beginning in order to get them comfortable. And then once they're comfortable, then you can start talking about the data, the numbers, the returns. But don't go into an investor meeting and say, hey, you're going to make so much money. You're going to make $100,000 in 5 seconds. You're going to like, they can't, numbers make no sense to people when they first start talking to another individual because our brain is wired to be like, hey, is this guy a threat? Is he going to hurt me, right? I mean, I'm physically going to be harmed by this human. And as soon as we build rapport and we emotionally connect, the guy goes, okay, maybe this guy's not a threat. I'm going to start to accept his information more. He starts to settle down. His body language changes. And from there, you can start talking about numbers. And so Adam's put the link to both of the past webinars, the deal analyzer and also the raising money. So if you click those links, you'll be able to watch the full hour-long webinar about both these topics. So the deal analyzer one's really good for analyzing deals. And the raising money, Julius, that'll talk about exactly what I talked about right there in way more detail. I know I just kind of spat that out at you and I apologize. I know that was probably a lot, but we go into detail on the YouTube webinar. So I think I may have an advantage for doing apartments. I have been a general contractor for some time and been trying to learn how to get more into multifamily homes. Yeah, Steve, you have a huge advantage. Being a contractor and understanding the actual building itself and the hard asset is a huge pro. Because I'm not going to lie, I was slightly intimidated by the overall sheer size and the detail associated with each apartment complex as far as the physical structure. But if you're comfortable with physical structures already, man, you have a huge advantage there, Steve. So just keep digging into the deal analyzer. I'd advise you to watch that YouTube link here, the deal analyzer one, and get into how to analyze a deal. Because if you can start to understand what's a good deal and then you're actually under contract on it, you're going to really thrive in the escrow period and the due diligence period. So we need to be able to get you there. So you need to learn how to raise money and analyze deals. So those are the 2 links below. And Steve, if you watch those, I think you'll be in a really good position because you do have a huge advantage. Cool. So we still got some questions coming in, which is awesome. Keep asking them if you can. I'll do my best. I'll stay up all night if I need to. But yeah, I think that they're starting to slow down a little bit here. It is 8:10. Let's see how many people are. Yeah, 18 people. Yeah, so there's still 18 people on. If you got any questions, feel free to ask them. So yeah, 8:10. Slowing down on the questions just a little bit here. I'm feeling like it might be. I'm looking so forward to it. Thanks, man. I'm ready to get going on a lot of this info. Yeah, Steve, of course. The more free stuff we can give you guys, the better. The participants are dropping now, 14. So if you're still here and you got some questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to give it 2 more minutes. If there's no questions, then I'll end it here at about 8:11, 8:12. Yeah, this has been awesome, though. I appreciate everybody showing up and asking great questions. It makes it so much fun when we get to interact. So are you partnering? So Steve, right now I'm focused on just helping as many people as I can get into the industry. And I'll start looking at partnering later in 2020 when the market starts to become more clear what the outlook is. But yeah, I'm definitely open to partnering if the deal makes sense and it's a good deal, then I'm always open. But again, my main goal is service. I want to serve as many people as I can. Learn this thing. It's changed my life entirely. So I want to allow as many people as I can to get access to this kind of information about multifamily because it's just such an awesome investment vehicle. I'd just love to help as many people as I can get into it. So, but yeah, I do partner. It's probably not the best time right now with me not fully understanding how to project what's going to happen, with all this COVID stuff. There could be a second wave in December. We don't know. A lot of the banks seem to think that there's going to be a second wave because I was actually talking to a guy from Meridian Capital today. He's a mortgage broker. And he was saying that the reserve limit on the loans, so reserves meaning you have to have extra capital in case of mistakes, the reserve limit's still about 12 months on most government lending. And that's because they're still not sure about the December second wave. There's no real cure for this thing. and they're not fully sure. So some of the investors are a little bit more bullish, and if you talk to investors, they might say, oh yeah, we're fine, it's going to be great. But a lot of the banks are still pretty hesitant, so I'm taking the bank's opinion into my into my analysis, and I'm kind of being a little bit more cautious as well. So 13 participants. Yeah, 812. Much appreciated, Kyle. Yeah, guys, I think I'm going to end it here. Unless there's anyone with a burning question out there, feel free to just throw it in there real quick. If not, then I'm going to go ahead and end this. You're a young man, a smart guy. I like all the things you have said and looking forward to it. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate the compliment. I really do. I appreciate it so much. So thank you for showing up, and I hope that I helped. And yeah, I think that this is a good place to end. We got 12 people left. But yeah, if you have a burning question, just type wait in the chat, and I'll make sure not to end it. But I think we're probably good here. Cool. So thank you guys, and the recording will be sent in an email tomorrow. Everything will be up there in the email. All the links will be in the email as well if you missed them in the chat today. So yeah, take care, everyone. Thank you so much, and have a great night. And thank you for showing up.